feedback with two mics right there. So imagine life in a sci-fi movie. So all the people in this sci-fi movie are wearing VR goggles. They're all in their own game world that they're playing. So, maybe this bench, if one person was playing in a fairy realm, so the bench would be made out of twisted branches and moss and ferns and things. But another person who's playing a different game might be a steampunk thing. So this would be brass tubing and black leather and studs and things, right? So the thing is, we are living in an augmented reality. We are all walking around in our own unique world. And no, we're not in the Matrix with AI controlling our brains, but we walk around in our lives with all of our built up ideas, all our paradigms, all of the beliefs that we have. And we project that experience onto the outer world. We literally have beliefs about absolutely everything, and many beliefs about everything. So, maybe this quilt, reminds you of going to your grandmother's house. So it brings that side of things. Maybe you're a crafter and you think of the quality that this is made out of. Maybe this chair with the quilt over it makes you think of riding in the back of a school bus. I mean, there's so many things, and we have all of these beliefs and ideas that we project on everything. What kind of person drives a truck? You're sitting at a stoplight and there's a big truck revving next to you. What are you assuming? What if about if decorating with the color orange? My kitchen is orange. It's very dated. But some people come in and they see the color orange and they think vibrancy and alive and it vitality. And some people look and say it's dated. They don't tell me that it's dated. I'm just the color orange itself. But how successful are you going to be learning a new skill? We have these impressions, these ideas that we are constantly moving in our world with. And if we spend a lot of time focused on the negative world news or doom scrolling, we're going to bring those beliefs that people are not kind, that people will take advantage of you, that people are mean and you have to protect yourself. We'll bring that into our experience. One of the things is, a pessimist is often, less happy than an optimist. Someone who's going to see the good in the world is often going to have a nicer time because they're both going to be proven right. They're both going to experience what they expect to experience. As we live inside this story, we act in ways that complement the narrative. We see the dirty window, or we see the beautiful sunrise beyond it. And we can find ourselves, more deeply looking at things that we can find ourselves in situations that reinforce those ideas, whatever they are. Maybe we believe that we are alone in the world. Maybe we believe that God is not, active in our lives. Or we might feel that, sorry, I'm lost in my notes. That we're unlovable, that we're unsafe. And the same thing can be true on the opposite side. We can find ourselves in situations that remind us that Spirit is always with us, that we are safe, that we are perfect in our imperfection, that people are kind. One of the beliefs that keeps coming up in my story is that I I'm not techie. It's one of those things. We had an interesting experience getting the iPad going this morning to film. But that belief that I'm not capable in doing tech. And I've done a lot of work in overcoming that. And Jim has discovered that if it's early in the morning and in little bites, I'm better at digesting that. But sometimes, especially later in the day, I choose to be confused. And my brain just shuts down. And it's not a conscious decision, but it's a decision that is based, or a reaction based on the belief that tech is hard and that I'm not good at it. So the labels that we hold on to, these beliefs that we have about ourselves, often have had a benefit in our lives. Maybe as children, it kept us safe, or it kept us from getting in trouble for doing things. But as conscious adults, we need to move past and consciously look at these and what benefits, because I think a lot of times those benefits are not really something we want anymore. My belief in not being techie started when I was teaching Waldorf education. And in Waldorf grade school, the families are asked to keep their children off screens so that they can develop a natural imagination through physical play. And the teachers have kind of taken that on, and there was a sense of, feeling more wholesome, feeling that we were creating a lifestyle that was healthier to not be on screens. But it was kind of humorous in the staff lounge. Teachers would come in and try to use the printer, and they'd be like, I can't get this to work, and getting all upset. They only had a little bit of time. And everyone else in the room would go, yeah, I don't know tech either. I don't understand it. And there was this sort of a little bit of superiority, a little bit of like, I'm so great, I have shunned this aspect of life. Like I'm so wholesome that I'm not doing any tech. I don't understand it. But when I moved out of teaching and moved into coaching, I needed to learn tech. And that belief about the wholesomeness, it didn't fit anymore. And so I've done a lot of work on, developing my website. I had, 3 years of weekly videos on YouTube and how to set up a YouTube channel and how to do bulk emails and all of that stuff I learned. And there are still times in my life that maybe it's a new program that I need to learn, or there's an update. I hate those updates. I got it. I finally figured out how to make it all work. And then it's like, oh, what? But I found, I remind myself, I am a competent woman. I am able to do this. And it helps if I try to tackle it in the morning and take small bites, but it's there. So we all we're coated with these limiting beliefs that we carry our lifetime through. Maybe I can't cook, or I can't spell, or I can't afford that is a big one. Labels that we've carried, in grade school, your music teacher asked you to not sing so loud, and therefore, even now you think you can't sing. And we have those same kind of labels for our society, the whole world. That that people will cheat you. These negative beliefs that about the whole situation, the whole world, that others, whoever the others are they're selfish and don't care. They're gonna cheat you. We put people in a box and believe that we know everything about them because we know who they voted for, or we know what church they go to. And even our beliefs about the divine are also coated with these potentially negative beliefs that God's going to punish us for certain behavior, or that God isn't active in the world, or that God would ask something of you that would be against your inner nature. Ernest Holmes uses this imagery to help us understand how these views keep us from seeing the true reality that the divine is providing. He says, imagine yourself looking at a picture of a beautiful landscape. In this picture, there are trees, a house, a stream of water, a beautiful meadow, and in the background, mountains and a blue sky dotted with clouds. You look at it long, contemplating its beauty. Now, suppose someone has placed a colored glass between you and the picture, so that the picture appears blurred. Everything seems distorted, and yet nothing has happened to the picture. It's your business to remove the colored glass because the picture is still there on the wall. It still may be seen. So luckily, there is a magic tool to help clear that glass. It's called wonder. So wonder shifts us out of our assumptions. We open ourselves with curiosity and looking. We do have to step out of our regular busyness to notice what is around us. But putting on a state of wonder brings us into the current moment, the present moment, and shows us a clearer picture of what reality is. It shifts us into that creative, solution-based reality that the divine is providing us. And the thing is, we're then open, because if we're projecting all of our beliefs out here, we're not receptive. We're not open to the divine insights. When we put on wonder, it allows the divine to sort of slip in those little insights and give us aha moments that normally we might be just shutting out. Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them. So we have to shift. So, if the stories we are telling ourselves, keep us focused on the problems in life, on the suffering, or we can move to a place of receptivity and creative flow and joy. When we assume we know, when we project, we're making assumptions about the person in the truck. When we assume we know, we're shutting off a huge resource that is the divine, that can give us an understanding deep in our heart. So wonder can shift us from our head to our heart, and what automatically happens when we put ourselves in that state of wonder is that we move into gratitude. That it's impossible to be in the state of wonder and not feel a sense of gratitude for that experience. The beautiful sunrise, that awe of, to not slip into that, feeling grateful for that experience. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, the invariable mark of wisdom is to see the miraculous in the common. So even in our everyday life, we can shift into that aspect of wonder and see things that we wouldn't have even noticed. Jesus said in Matthew, unless you turn and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So think about the energy of a child. They're open. They're just experiencing everything. They're in a state of awe and curiosity. I got a chance this week to visit a grade school. My Rotary Club, our big project is that we give a book to every child from kindergarten to second grade in our whole school district. So the members get to go to the schools and lay out these books all over the tables in the library, and the children get to come and pick them out. And just being around kindergartners and first graders and the enthusiasm of getting to take a book home and the excitement of choosing one out, but also the connection. I mean, I had so many times where I met eyes with some little first graders and we smiled at each other, and then we were friends, like they would come to me, which book do I choose? And at the end of when they were leaving with their teacher, they would, those children specifically that I connected with would wave to me goodbye. There's an openness about them. So the power of wonder is that it brings us into that conscious, creative space with the divine. We're open, and that in doing that, we enter the kingdom of heaven. So the kingdom of heaven is not a place that we will go, but it is a place that we can go in our minds. It's a state of mind that we shift to. It's an awareness, a deeper awareness of that connection that we have at every moment. And I think we've all had those moments of awe, of overwhelming feeling that divine. I call them amazing grace moments, where you're just taken aback by the glory of this world and this experience. We get a peek into heaven, and it automatically, again, shifts us into that state of gratitude. And that's not just, and I love this practice. I'm not trying to diss this practice of, at the Thanksgiving table where we go around and we share something that we're grateful for. That is a beautiful practice before you're celebrating with family. But this kind of gratitude starts at your heart, and it radiates out, and you can feel it in your whole body. And it has been scientifically proven that it literally changes the vibration that your body is moving at. We know that we're all matter that's moving at a different vibration at all these times. But when we step into that deep sense of gratitude, we are vibrating at a different level, and it's at that level that I often say that gratitude is the language of that the divine is speaking. Our feelings are the language that we speak to the divine with. So when we're in that state of gratitude, we are open to receiving these amazing insights and gifts in our lives. And I know that staying in a state of wonder can be a little tiring if it's not our practice, right? It's very out and energetic. But there's another practice that Zen Buddhists practice, and it's called the beginner's mind. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. The idea that whenever you approach something, even if you're the master, that you put on the mind of a beginner, because we can always learn something. We can always gather some new thing from whatever we're experiencing. I see wonder as kind of going out and being curious and looking, and the beginner's mind as kind of sitting back and receiving these insights and noticing, but it's more of a receptive. So it's less active and more receptive. You can sit back and see what is happening and be welcoming of a new lesson, no matter who the teacher is. I think that's a big one for me. I know that if I respect someone, I'm much more likely to listen to what they say than if I don't really respect their behavior. I'm less likely to find that I can learn something. But, that beginner's mind, you can learn something from any situation and any person. I've been trying to put on the beginner's mind, and this week I got a chance to practice. We had an herbal medicine workshop at our house on our property. We have 13 acres of old growth. And so the herbalist friend of mine offered to have this for the women who live up on the mountain. I've talked about my little women's group on the mountain, so that was from that. And I was worried that I was going to try to show everybody all that I knew about herbal medicine. I mean, I've studied herbal medicine. I have a minor in botany. It's my forest after all. So I really consciously needed to step back and say, okay, what can I learn from this experience? I trust Mel. She's an amazing herbalist. And so I knew that I was going to be learning something, but I also knew that if I got into the showing everybody how, what I knew and into that kind of bragging mode, that I wasn't going to be as receptive. And I'm happy to say that I learned a lot about my forest. I felt like there were times where the people did ask me questions about certain things that I knew. But one marker for me was that, she would ask questions of the group. And my behavior has always been, if I know the answer, sure, my hand is up. If I don't know the answer, I'm not going to guess because I don't want to seem foolish. I don't want to seem like I don't know what's going on, even if I don't know what's going on. And I was able to, she asked these questions and I was like, I don't know the answer to that, but I, could use my deduction and thoughts about the weather and the soil and the plants they were growing around and take an educated guess. And I was wrong a few times, but I was super proud of myself for stepping out of that comfort zone and taking the risk. And I really felt like I had that, what the beginner's mind of, okay, how do you do this? And what does this work? And how do you make a decoction? And all these things that I, had studied a little bit. It's been a long time. And so it was nice for me to feel like a learner again and not feel like I needed to be the teacher. So when we get into I know how this is going to play out, or I know this subject, what happens is that we shift our brain into a different mode, I don't know, and we are not in learning mode, we're in I know this mode. And so we block out what the opportunities that are facing us. One of the things I like to do is I like to watch instructional YouTube videos. And one of the ones that I really enjoy is a cooking class. And Mary's Nest is her name if you want to look it up. And I've used a lot of her recipes, but her videos are like half an hour long. And I want to learn how to make kombucha. I don't want to spend, I want to get it done. And so I find myself often skipping parts of it. Okay, she's pouring the water. I don't really need to see her pouring water. I can skip that to try to get the information done in a little bit of less time. And what happens when I do that is that I miss those little bitty things. Like maybe while she's pouring water, she's talking about how, when you're making kombucha, as an example, you need to let the water sit overnight so that the chlorine in the water, if you live in the city, can evaporate. But I would miss that if I'm skipping it. And the other thing that happens that's actually, I think, more important is that, again, I put my brain in skipping mode. I put my brain in the mode of looking for things that I know so I can take them out of the way, instead of looking for what I can learn, expecting that to happen. And I think a lot of times we do that in our lives as well. We put our brains in kind of a different mode where we're not really receptive. I have been writing every morning with someone, and there are days where I'm in editing mode, and there are days that I'm in writing mode. And it's very hard to switch back and forth. The writing mode is this creative where I'm taking, and my brain has to do work to take my thoughts and put them into words that are understandable. And the editing space is more of, picking, and it's more brainless. I don't really need to use my creative energy to edit so much. But I've found it very difficult if I've been editing to jump into the creative writing aspect. So in our lives, when we're in one mode of, I know how this is going to play out, or I've already heard that before, and not in the beginner's mind, not in the wonder and the curiosity about what it is that I can glean from this information or from this experience. You're in the experience, why not get all you can out of it? We were listening to or watching Jane Goodall's what's it called? Her famous last words, the interview that she did before she died, to be aired after she died. And in it, she talked about, there was a story about a pair of sparrows. She was in the Denver airport, and there was a pair of mating sparrows, and the female was doing she was fluttering her wings and opening her mouth to be fed as this mating ritual. And the male saw some crumbs on the ground, and he would fly down to get the crumb. And you know how birds are, they kind of work their way towards what they want, right? So he gets to the ground and he gets really close to the crumb, and then someone would walk by with their phone and not even see it, and he would scatter. And so over and over again he tried, and he finally got the crumb, and he brought it to his lady love. And this whole romance, this beautiful epic story was playing out in the Denver airport, and only Jane saw it. And she said, people don't notice, and I'm shocked because nature is always filled with things to look at. The world is a place full of surprises. We can learn in any moment. Being in a body is such a privilege. We get to experience the world through our senses. We get to interact with each other. We get to use our brains to create things, and our hands. And yet we live in a world that is filtered by our beliefs. And we project our story onto everything, like we're living with VR goggles on. And my reality is different than your reality. So approaching this world with wonder and curiosity allows us to open that, to clear that glass a little bit and see what's really there. It brings us to the present moment. When you're in that state of wonder, you're not necessarily really thinking, you're not somewhere else. Your brain is in this moment. And we can see more of what really is around us, and it excites us. It invigorates us, revitalizes us. And with a beginner's mind, the approach of a beginner's mind, we can always learn something from every experience. And as we shift into this enlivened state, we feel that gratitude welling us up from within us. And it's at that time that we can receive the divine wisdom at a level that we don't normally get to experience. There's something miraculous around us at every moment, even in our habit-filled lives, if we bother to look for it. So I invite you this week, this Thanksgiving week, to put on those eyes of wonder, the curiosity about all that's around us, and the beginner's mind. Have your Thanksgiving dinner. Try to clear those assumptions about those people in your life that you're having dinner with, and put on that beginner's mind. What can that, uncle that's not in your same box, what can they experience? What can you learn from them? So I invite you to put on that experience and see how life changes. Blessings. So this is our time for our offering, and let's just